Informed trainer Ben Pauling joins us now as we look ahead to the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. Great to see you, Ben. You're set to send quite a good team to Cheltenham this year.
Yeah, hopefully we've got a lovely team, certainly on what they've shown us so far this season. We all know they need to get there in A1's condition, healthy and well, but if they do, hopefully they can be competitive.
And one horse who's looked a potential superstar this season is Tellherthename, and he's on course for the Supreme.
He is very much so. It's been a brilliant year for him so far. We've just drew a line through the run at Aintree. I honestly thought he'd go very close, if not win that, and I wasn't even worried about it so much. It was a Grade 1, but I had so much faith in the horse. I thought he'd run a massive race, and he pulled up 3 out, didn't go a yard from the bottom bend, and we ummed and ahed and scratched our heads, but I think ultimately it was just bottomless ground, and he's too much class and speed for that, and he wasn't going to put it in.
And of course the ground conditions was why he missed the Betfair Hurdle. Do you think that could potentially help him because he's going to Cheltenham a fresh horse?
Yeah, very much so. I'm not afraid of taking one, especially to a Supreme, fresh and well, because they'll go a gallop, they always do, and you've got to travel and jump early doors. So I'm happy with where he is. Very nice racecourse gallop this morning at Kempton, and I'm hoping that he can be competitive.
He's a horse that you think the world of, isn't he?
He is, yeah. There's not many. It's been a long time since I've had. We've got a nicer bunch of novices overall than I've had for a very long time or ever. But we've got 3 or 4 that are proper smart, I think, if not a few more, and he's very much leading the way.
Another smart performer, or potentially smart performer, is Handstands, who is unbeaten, won the Sydney Banks last time out. He's on course for the Birmingham Bingham?
Yeah, very much so. I think off the back of the Sydney Banks, his owners were very keen that he would only go to Cheltenham if he was A1, and at the moment he is. Nice piece of work this morning, and he's a hard horse to weigh up, because at home he doesn't do anything more than he needs to do, which is a lovely thing. He'll work with whatever you put him with, but I think he's very talented and only does what he needs to do, and hopefully if he's mentally switched on enough through the early part of the race, he'll be competitive.
And how would he compare to your Supreme contender Tellherthename?
Very, very different horses. I mean, they're literally polar opposites. One sort of looks like he wants to own the place the whole time. The other fella just goes along. You wouldn't even know he was there. But I think they're both very talented individuals, and hopefully horses that can go forward in the future.
And the Jukebox Man finished 3rd in the Chalo when last seen. Is he on course for the Albert Bartlett?
Yeah, very much so. He's been a great horse for us again this season. Beaten once in a bumper by Gidley Park. And I knew Gidley Park must be a decent animal that day. And then obviously ran a great race in really tough conditions at Newbury in the Chalo, being beaten a length and a half or whatever he was beaten. I think a step up to 3 miles was right up his street. But he's a very talented horse as well. We're very fortunate with the novices we've got this year.
And do you think soft ground is important to him, or do you think he'll improve for better ground?
I do think he wants a bit of cut in the ground, yeah. I don't think he's a horse. I certainly personally can't see myself running him on good ground at this time of his career. If it came up on the quicker side by the end of the week, we'd probably have to rethink. But he's a chaser for next year. He's a really lovely horse, and he wouldn't want quick ground.
And 6 Mile Bridge was really impressive at Sandown last time out, but things haven't really been plain sailing for him this season.
No, he's every time he's never done anything but work well and look well, but his lung health has been very average, and it was very much a case of rolling the dice and seeing how we got on at Sandown. He was heavily backed because we know how well he goes, but lung health isn't something you can trust if it's not quite right, and his scope wasn't perfect the week before, but we rolled the dice. He won well. We'll take a scope off him nearer the time. I don't think we'll be necessarily running off dirty scopes at the festival, because there's no point, but he's another one that I think could be a really smart performer for the future in whatever he does.
And if he does run in a champion bumper, how would you assess his chances?
Well, I don't know what it takes to win a champion bumper, and I always think that's key. If I'm completely honest, we've won an Aintree bumper, and we've had some very nice bump horses, and we've got a good bunch of bump horses, probably the best bunch of bump horses we've had in my career so far, and he probably does chuck his head out at the top of that pack. But it's the way that he races, it's his relaxed style that has probably let me think about sending him to a champion bumper, because he's so relaxed through the race. He just lobs along, and then when you need him, he comes alive. I don't think I'd be running a horse in there that was going to find the occasion too much and be too keen and almost sort of half ruin him for the future, because I think it's a tough race, the champion bumper. But he's in good order, and he worked well this morning as well.
Great stuff. And Cheltenham Harry's been a great performer for the yards over the past few seasons. Great to see him back to winning ways last time out.
Yeah, brilliant. He hasn't won enough. He should have won more races. He came up against a horse called Shiskin in 2 of his novice hurdles, and I mean, he went on to be okay, didn't he? So, you could argue that he probably should have a few more number ones by his name, but he was becoming a bit of a bridesmaid, and I did his wind through the summer, and I think he's definitely improved performer this season. I was thrilled to see him win for Harry on New Year's Day, and he was third in this last year, and I think he's a bit better than he was last year. So hopefully we can be competitive again.
Do you think he's still nicely treated too?
I think he is on what I first. I think when I first had him, I thought he was going to be a proper 3-mile chaser, 150 plus horse, and he's never quite become that. He's a funny horse because he's in the national, and I don't know if he'd stay that trip or not, but he's actually slow, but over 2.5 miles he comes alive on the race course, and he jumps so well that I think a strong 2.5 miles is where he wants to be at the moment.
Cool. So you're which race are you thinking of going with?
Probably the plate, if the ground remains good, soft, that sort of. If it went good, we'd have to look at the Ultima, but I would be keener to go for the plate if I could.
And talking of the Ultima, is Twighead in there?
Yeah, very much so, and he's the opposite. He really wants good ground. The better the ground, the better a chance he's got. He couldn't handle the ground on the Coral Gold Cup day and things like that, and he's one of those sort of top of the ground spring sort of horses. He's had a great break. He's been at Matt Hampton's, who's done a great job with him through the winter. He worked this morning at Kempton, went very well. I hope that'll pull him bang on. But top of the ground, he could be quite a lively outsider.
And Harper's Brook is a slightly quirky performer, but it was good to see him back to winning ways at Sandown last time out.
Yeah, he was brilliant. I mean, that was a mess of a race, wasn't it? And maybe that's what it takes for Harper to keep his head in front. Huge ability, there's no two ways about that. I think everyone knows that. And it's just getting him to put his head in front. Again, worked well this morning. I was really pleased with him. And we might put a pair of blinkers on him. I'm not sure. Might leave the cheap pieces. We'll speak to Andrew, but it's a big discussion we're having at the moment. But he's in good order. I know he's got the ability off the mark he's on. That's not the worry. It's getting him over the last and up past the post in front.
He's definitely going for the Grand Annual.
Yeah, he'll go to the 2-miler, yeah.
Great stuff. And Henry's friend, National Hunt Chase?
Yeah, there's every chance he could run. I need to speak to his owners in depth, because I sort of thought we'd asked a lot of him in the Reynoldstown. He's come out of the race unbelievably well, and so maybe there's a good chance if the owners are keen, we might go. If there's anything, sort of any hiccup, it would be a very easy choice to avoid that and maybe go to Aintree instead. But he does seem really well, which is surprising considering I thought he had to give his all at Kempton, but maybe he didn't quite.
And do you think that test will suit him if he goes for that race?
I think he'll stay every yard of it. I know Ollie, his owner, has slight reservations, but I think 3 mile 6 is well within his grasp.
And Bow to Greatness, he's been a useful performer without getting his head in front. He's going for the Kinmure?
Yes, I think so. I think he'll go Kinmure. He's in the amateur chase and he's in the Ultima. I couldn't say without doubt at any of this stage, but I always thought he was a I thought he was a National Hunt chase horse. I've campaigned him all season to become a National Hunt chase horse. But he just, again, ran well on Saturday. First race he's probably had, first two, he was too keen at Newbury, and then he took a blow at Cheltenham. So Saturday was the first race he's had, and he probably ended, in my eyes, probably still well handicapped. So we probably ought to be going handicap rather than the amateur chase, but that's not to say that's out of the question.
And Bad was quite a big talking horse last season. Where are you thinking of running him at the Cheltenham Festival this time around?
He won't get into a lot yet. There's an outside chance of getting to the boys' race. We'll see. He's in good order. I think he half needed to believe in himself at Ascot as much as anything else. He's had a wind up before Ascot, and I think he just needs to trust himself, and if he does, he'll go all right. Last
question, Ben, and probably the trickiest question. Best chance of winning if you can nominate one?
I don't really want to pick any horse. There's so many nice horses amongst them. We're not sending horses there for the owners' tickets to have a nice day. Hopefully they can be competitive. If they're not, then I hope there's a reason why they're not. And so let's keep our fingers crossed they all get up there safe and sound, and we can try and compete to the best of our ability.
Brilliant stuff, Ben. Very best of luck at Cheltenham Festival this year.
Cheers, all the best.